healthy fatherhood and wellness, I want to challenge our listeners to think about one, the fathers in their lives, fathers, godfathers, uncles, father figures, those who have assumed that role in your life, and really what you think you should celebrate about them. And one of the reasons why that's important, especially to the women for this month, is that our Ready Women Collective is hosting a Fatherhood Award ceremony. So excited about that. That's coming up June the 22nd. Tickets are $15 for a light brunch, but it's an opportunity for you to publicly recognize a father, a husband, a son, somebody who you know who has put real effort into fatherhood. June 22nd, our annual Fatherhood Award ceremony is awarded to 3 men, and there's a man that represents each one of the fathers of the organizers of this event. So that's Crystal L. Gunn, her father, Dr. Suzanne Jarrett, her father, and then of course my father, Glenn K. Miller. Each one of us selected a man who we believe epitomizes fatherhood, either the aspects of our fathers that we love or the aspects of our fathers that we wanted to have. And so this way we get to celebrate all of our fathers in a way that acknowledges all of who they are and those who are also a part of that who we see in them. So my honor is Damon English. And Damon English actually had a chance to spend time with, get to know my father, and is such an important man in my life. He's such an important community figure. He and his brothers own the Crab House on 7 Mile near Evergreen. So if you are a patron of the Crab House, you already know how the Englishmen are. And of course, that is a lot of their father, Mr. English, poured into his sons. And so it's just amazing to see committed men. It's amazing to see committed fathers, because they're all fathers. And to see them in the community and how they support the community, how they come out, how they show up. And they show up in a lot of different ways. I have a close connection to this family, and I have actually seen Damon and the kind of man that he is, but also the type of father that he is. And as a father, he's a girl dad, so he has 2 daughters, and he has a son. And his son just went to prom, and he is actually graduating this week. So bravo, Damon Jr. We're so proud of you. And Dad, as you're there every step of the way in the lives of your children. I think that makes you just a phenomenal dad, that you're present and that you're always there and you're always looking out for their best interests and you're always communicating with your children. And I can't wait to celebrate you on June the 22nd. And leading up to that point, I'm going to be sharing videos. I'm going to be sharing my story with you. I'm going to share all the amazing things that I think you are as a father, as a man in the community, as a man in our village, because you understand what the village mindset is. Thank you. Again, I applaud you. I am so grateful to have you in my life, and I am so grateful and blessed that I have an opportunity to acknowledge you in front of the world, in front of our guests on June 22nd. So if you know Damon English and you want to be a part of that, or if you have a man, a father, a husband that you want to acknowledge, this is a great time to do that. So I'm just going to share really quickly that after all of that talk I just shared, that Damon English just entered the studio and he has no idea of what I just said about him. So I'm going to send him the link to the show to make sure he hears all of that.
Well, the second thing, honestly, was validation. Sometimes as dads and as mothers, as parents, need to hear that we're doing it right or that we're doing it halfway decent. There is no child that comes out the womb with an owner's manual. So you have to figure this out. And in most cases, trying the first kid, getting with the second kid, and then once you get to the third child, and pretty much might have it under control, but then they might be out of control. So then you have a whole other situation you're dealing with.
Right.
And as a father, sometimes it's difficult, and I am a divorcee. So as a divorced father of my children, from my children's mother, because of the separation of the homes, sometimes you have to get more in tune, and sometimes you don't know if you're in tune enough or if you need to be more in tune. And you know, you have that example that was set out for you, but as we know that our parents that raised us, the children that we are raising now are not the same kids. So they have a whole other dynamic. So we are learning as we do this thing. And sometimes, for me, it has been some challenges. I have questioned myself as a father. I've questioned myself as a man. I've questioned myself as a business owner. I've questioned myself in every aspect you can when it comes to this journey. And the journey has not been easy for me. But as I continue to go, and I did, to be honest with you, before I accepted this award, I asked my kids, could I? If I was not deserving of this award from you all, I would not have accepted it. And that is one thing. I appreciate the honor. I appreciate the nomination. But the truth is, these kids are who this impacts the most. And sometimes with my kids being soon to be 22, 18, and 16, they have their mind on whether or not I did okay or not. And
they're not always reliable sources.
yeah,
They're not always credible sources.
This is true. But because the struggle was there, I needed more validation from the kids, and they gave it to me.
They better.
They
That's about hunt them down and scrape some toenails.
They did, and I appreciated it, and I really did. They actually gave me some pats on the back, and it couldn't have come at a better time. I go in and out because you're not just, for me, I'm not just raising children. I'm trying to raise good citizens. I'm trying to raise good workers. I'm trying to raise good people. I hope that my sons and my daughters become good husbands and wives one day and have some of the stuff that they see. You know, when I talk to my son and I teach him how to do something, I don't teach him because I want him to do chores. If he's cutting the grass, I tell him, son, I'm showing you how to do this so when you have yours, your grass is cut, because no one is going to pull up to a house where a man lives and says, that woman is not taking good care of their grass. It's just not going to happen. and I mean, people have their way of looking at things, and this is mine. If the lights are not cut, if the lights are turned off, I believe they're going to look at that man. If the house is in a disarray, it doesn't matter who, you know, in 2024 even, it still falls in these domestic roles that people still tend to see. And, you know, I have to tell him, like, son, you have to make sure that happens. You know, you don't want your wife on the side of the road, I guess. It's not necessarily going to be a reflection of her. You know, in some kind of way, it's going to fall on you. And just as a lot of things fall on men. So I try to teach him that. Even with my girls, I teach them to do it until they have someone to help them do it. So yes, you will learn how to cut grass as well, just so you know how to do it. And of course, you don't have somebody, but I want you to know how to do it. So it's just some of those core values. But back to the answer to the question, shocked, and very, very honored to receive such a nomination. It is probably not many things that's more important than me being a dad.
Wow. How about that?
It's just not. My children is what keeps my name. My children are what represents me, and I represent them as well. So, you know, you have to be careful and mindful of what they see, what they do, and what example you set. It's work. seeing my dad, he's my hero. He's my hero, you know. And it's not that he sought out to be my hero. He just sought out to just be a man, and it actually just worked out that way. He showed me how to do stuff, or he showed my brother, who showed me as I'm the youngest child. I have a respect for him that will never go away, and that's what I mean by the differences of, you know, the generation. I know my dad can't be, but I treat him as good as he can, you know, because I know that he's put that type of respect in me to be able to respect him or whatever he can. I try to make sure that it happens because I know he would normally do it. So he still shines. And I have that relationship. I know Mother's Day is coming. He knows the drill. He's going to send me to get what's needed, and he's going to tell me, pick it like I would pick it. And I know how to pick it because he showed me how to pick it. He buys the most beautiful cars for my mother, and I always try to make sure that he does what, you know, that I do, that whatever it was that he would expect to do. And we just check in and make sure he's good. And he got 3 boys. We make sure he's good because of what he left. And I want to hope that one day I can depend on my children to do the same for me if I'm ever not able to do it.
Right.
I may have to call them, but I hope that when I ask them that they can provide.
Right.
You know, and it's a very important thing. It's a very important thing.
So talk to me a little bit about raising a son versus raising a daughter. What are some of the differences that you found on your journey?
Girls are rough. Their emotions and their space that they're in. You have to first find out what that space is. And sometimes when you are given advice, because my wife will definitely give you some advice about how to treat them. But then, once she gives me the advice, she's going to give me the advice from her perspective. And then I'm going to find that she's not the same as that one. And now I got to tweak this a little bit. And there's a lot that goes on with it. My son was different. All I had to do was show him I trusted him.
Really?
Yeah, when I showed him I trusted him, it made a difference. I told my son my secrets. I would tell him stuff that I wouldn't tell anybody else. If we're getting ready to go on vacation, we're going on a trip, I say, hey son, between you and I, I'm trying to figure out where we're going on vacation. And we'll talk about it. And he'll tell me, or I'll tell him, hey, Damon, what do you think about such and such? Hey, don't tell nobody, but you know, I'm about to do this. And just keep it under your head. I only told him because I wanted him to be able to trust me and know that I trusted him. And if I asked him, you know, it's between me and I, so make sure that this don't get out. And once I developed that kind of relationship with him, it's just a little different. If I call him, it's something different when I communicate with my son. A lot of people, I envy them. The ones that have those daughters that are right there, Johnny, on the spot, and do anything they ask. And daddies are wrapped around daughters' fingers, and vice versa. I don't have that luxury.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, I don't. There's a figuring out that has to happen in most cases. Now, you know, we got one that's 15, she'll be 16 in a couple weeks now.
Oh my gosh.
Erin is a different struggle, because she has a lot of personality. But because she has so much personality, the business slides under the radar. So you don't see everything that's going on because she's likable and lovable. And she has a lot of energy. And go to school and talk to the teachers and counselors. It's almost like it's even a shot to the counselor that she's not doing what she's doing because she's just such a socialite. My son, he's not as much of a socialite, and then I have the daughter who's wanting, she wants that adult life. And I tell my kids all the time, statistically, they say you got 8 try not to let them. I try not to rush them into adult life. I don't usually go into some big rush to be grown. It sucks.
Right.
Adult life is not.
Look, you should see Monique. She's in all agreement over here.
You have to do. You know, if it doesn't happen, you have to do it. And then there's, hopefully you're ready for it. Hopefully you understand everything that was told to you. No matter, I never forget the last time that I held my daughter out, and she came to me and she told us she wanted to talk to us, and she told me that she knew. I said, okay, you sure you want to do that? And I did end up getting upset, but it was just to have to watch your child make a bad choice, make a bad decision. It's heartbreaking, it's frustrating, it's hard to look at, especially with the girls. And because I'm more of a daddy's kid than a mother's child, I love my mother. My mother is amazing. She's awesome.
Indeed, she is.
The best mother. Wow. So far. They don't make them like that anymore. But because that was so easy, my dad, I kind of knew the story of the struggle. I knew how my mother's struggle was. It was a little different. But my mother was the youngest girl of 9 or 10 kids, and my dad was the second oldest, about 9 or 10 kids. So it was boys versus girls on the other end. So my dad had 2 daughters, 2 sisters, and my mom had 2 brothers, 3, but 2. And my grandfather lived to be 80, and I never met my grandmother on my mom's side. So she was gone before my mother didn't know her. So she had this dad figure who she had to pick up slack. So when she got old enough, she took care of stuff. And so she was kind of built and ready for it. And the same with my dad. But my dad had, he had chores and he had stuff, and my grandfather was rough. So because he was rough, all my dad did was he deal with what his dad did. And then you realize later he didn't have to do things. You watch it all the time. Parents are hard on kids, grandkids, third. But that's because they was figuring it out and they realized it didn't take all that. But I watched it, so I learned that it didn't take all that. But I'm still a little more stern than most. And I get a little slack from time to time. And because she don't like to see the harsh. But the reality is that sometimes you just gotta. It's gonna be a little bit of you that's gonna always, a little bit of your parents are always gonna come out. And with raising, with the oldest kids, it's kind of like watching them. My son was vocal because we had that verbal relationship. My attempts of constantly trying to build a relationship with verbal and talking to me, for whatever reason, for my kids, the girls didn't really take on to that trust to say I can come talk to you. So I would always have to figure it out. And with the girls, it's always a figure out. I'm constantly trying to figure out when it comes to women in my life. But when it comes to my son, he came to me. He came to me when he's graduating Thursday. And he came to me about maybe 2 months ago. And we were leaving church. And after the service, he was like, I'm just kind of nervous about being on my own, going out. I don't think I'm ready. I don't know. And I said, so it's okay to be nervous. I said, but trust me, you are far above where a lot of kids aren't, And I know when you hear us tell you where we were at this age, it's a little different because we were a little different. So, 17 years old, you may not be driving every day, but the reality is you know how to cook, you know how to clean, you know how to do certain things, you know how to put stuff together. I rely on you. When I get something or buy something and I need something together, I just give it to him. I let him figure it out and I let him use his hands. And he does it, So I had to tell him, so there's a lot of kids your age don't know how to do this. There's a lot of kids that know, so and it's because he was around cooking and he's been around cooking men. He's seen it. So, you know, if I need him to cook something, it won't be a problem. He just prefers it. We're waiting on him. Natural thing that he has. You know, so you know, it is different. But I know I can definitely rely on my children. I have 3 amazing kids. They're all different. Not by looks, they look a lot like, but they are all 3 totally different personalities. I have an adult daughter, DJ, who's figuring out life, you know, and I respect how she's figuring out life, and I have to even the hard times of when you have to give that young adult that space to let her go ahead and do her thing, because it is a rough road to watch. I don't care if it's my daughter, my son, my niece, my nephew, my cousins. Watching them bump their head when you know they're going to do it, it's hard. It's for me, it's like watching an accident getting ready to happen. So I understand you won't hurt yourself bad, but I can tell it's kind of like being in a parking lot and you see somebody push a cart, and just goes the cart out and land beside the bin, and you can tell when they let it go that it is going toward the car, the beautiful white car, and you can tell it's about to hit that car from the moment they let it go. That's how I look at my kids sometimes. You know, I know they're about to bump their head right here. But then there's that light at the end of the tunnel and say, hey, I know a lot of people that didn't get it together till they were 25. A lot of them didn't get it together till they was 30. And they found their way. I have family that I look at that it wasn't always where it's at now, but it's there now. Don't forget, it used to be this. Even for me, you know, I wasn't one of those young adults that flew the coop right away. I stayed home for a while. And I was glad that I did it because, and that's why I tell my kids, that's why I told my daughter, you can stay here and not pay anything, but you can pay me to hold the money. And I hold the money. And then, you know, you pay me every week. And when you're done paying me every year, just get right back. Now you got a little cushion. Take your time, because, you know, trusting yourself is not always easy. So take the time and develop a cushion so when you get out here, the fall don't hurt as much. No. So she want to do it her own way. So now you have to do it your own way. It's okay. It's okay. It's just hard for me. It's hard for me. So watching them, sometimes it is definitely hard. But in terms of the love, you hear me say about my son who's autistic. And I share that because he's unique, very different, and he has his things that he likes. Yeah, it's something that you develop about it. So I just told him, like, hey man, you can't kick it with it. You can't go out the big guns right away, you know, because some of this stuff is, you know, some people will like it and appreciate it if there's something that they're interested in, but nah.
Wow, now that is a dad moment. That's a teaching moment. That's important. And I just want to just step back a little bit because I'm going to ask you some questions. So you talked and alluded to your upbringing. I want to hear a little bit more about your story. But for the dad moments that you talked about, and it's funny because I was in my research, I was looking at some things, and one of the things, and this is number 6, right? A lot of the things you talk about so far. So this is from an article called The Psychologist's Guide to Raising Emotionally Healthy Boys. Number 6 says, fathers confide in your sons. Fathers confide in your sons. And another one, it says, defy gender norms. When you're talking about parenting and co-parenting. letting your children know, your son in particular, letting your son know that there are, like you talked about the roles, like, it's gonna eventually it's gonna come back to you. It's gonna be a reflection of you, and so you have to make sure certain things are done, like decent and in order, right? Like it says, let the boys know that it's okay to ask for help. Another thing you alluded to, like I'm listening to you and you are like going down this list. One of them is called, number one thing was share your day. Talk about your day. The fact that you have good days and bad days or ups and downs. You talked about that. It says don't trivialize how they feel. You talked about that. Like, you recognize that your children have feelings, and I'm specifically talking about your son here. But that he has his own feelings and thoughts, and you take the time to listen. That helps to build the trust. Spending time together. I mean, all of it, like every one of these that you talked about, and you talked about validation earlier. And so this is one of the staff at Henry Ford Health System that's talking about healthy relationships for boys. And so if you needed validation, you guys could co-author this article, because all 6 of them really have been fluid in your conversation and how you talk about your son. So I just, again, this is just another reason for our listening audience why he is the nominee for the Glenn K. Miller Award, Fatherhood Award. And blessings. So, I mean, I learned a lot, probably more than I knew before about you and your parenting role. However, so my number 2 says, tell us about yourself, about your beliefs, your personal philosophy, what makes you who you are. What do you think that is?
I am not a Christian. I believe my Lord Jesus Christ. I put him ahead. I put him at the forefront of my thoughts in my day. I try to make conscious decisions, and I try to make things so that it will benefit everyone. I try not to just consider myself, but to consider everyone involved in whatever decision and things that I might do. I try. That's one of the most important things I tell my kids whenever we talk, and they know I had to get my daughter back to school, and we were having this conversation as kids make bad decisions all the time. I've been telling them since they were very little, make good choices. And most times when they get in trouble, I can simply ask them that question, what do I do? And then that's going to be, if you just follow this rule, to be a leader, not a follower. It's never too late. And in Aaron's situation, it was never too late to say no. She said yes to something that she should have said no to, and got her in trouble. And she knew no was the answer, but she didn't. But at least you know. So you have to make these good choices, you gotta make these wise decisions, you got to. If you don't think things through, I can make a quick decision when it's a quick decision and a simple decision that I need to make. Whenever it becomes impactful to other people, I need a minute. I even said that to you today. So when I talk to you, I don't want to, because one thing I don't like to do is commit if I can. Because I don't feel like it, the confrontation and, the most real thing that has happened in my world lately is anxiety. You can just get overwhelmed by the thought of what can take place. It doesn't mean you're soft, it doesn't mean that you are not a man or a woman, and you can't handle things, but sometimes you just, your body, your mind, everything is going to tell you, hey, this is not what I want to do, so I don't do it. And there's that die. I'm careful. I'm careful. It's just kind of how I am. I try to be very, very considerate of people. And Because I want people to be considerate of me. And that's the hard part. And this is the part that I struggle with. Being considerate of people and those same people not being considerate of you. It's a struggle. But don't let what they do stop you from doing what you do. Because a lot of times all you do is block your own blessing. Because the reason, and I'm sure I've said this to you before, I stay blessed. I brag on my God because I stay blessed. And I stay blessed because I stay with an open heart. I don't have to give it all, but I give a lot, and I give enough, and I give often, and I consider people. And because I do that, somehow or another, what I make is not enough to take care of these things that it does. And I'm
the fish and the loaves.
Very grateful, grateful because, you know, sometimes we mentally say where a struggle is, and we all know how that powerful term can be. And if you say things, and before you know it, you realize, yeah, that's inaccurate. Everybody goes through income. You pay every week. Where you get paid? It's based on, if it's not based on your own movement, it's fixed. You get off this subject.
Indeed, David. So I appreciate you being here and the press that you took to get here, and you have validated. And Monique, you can agree with this, right? You have validated everything that I said about you before you got here. That is awesome. That's a blessing. It's attributed to your parents and your village, and how important that village is in raising a healthy boy to a man. And you have a blueprint of how you do your son, so that your legacy, just like your dad's legacy, is living in you and your brothers and your children. They have that same legacy. And so when we talk about a village mindset, when we talk about acceptable culture, we are talking about how we impact and influence our environment. Our culture needs its culture. Our culture needs its family. And if we're not the one that is taking ownership of this, and it's each individual, you make a choice. And I love that you said making good choices and wise decisions. So it's not just making choices, but it's making wise decisions. We have to do better. And because we are EMIYTV, Put Your Family First, our organization, our work, and this vision for our village to become a healthy community, it's in each one of our hands. So I thank you for being with us today, Damon. I thank you.
Hey.